This is why people call the media the enemy of the people. Last night there was an event at St. Michael's Church in Belfield, and Mark Latham happened to be one of the speakers that was there. It wasn't his event, but he happened to be speaking there on religious freedom. Now, there was a protest that was planned from this group called Community Action for Rainbow Rights. Rainbow Nazis. And so this little group of psychos decided to try and intimidate the event by desecrating a crucifix, smashing it into the ground, throwing things at the church, and having offensive posters on private property. Now, a lot of locals heard about this event and they decided to show up well ahead of time. And they tried to kick these people and protect their private land, their local church in Belfield. And for this, the media decided to completely botch the coverage of the event, of what really happened. No mention of a crucifix getting smashed, no mention of private property damage, no mention of trespassing. Forgive my tone, but the locals in this area are peed off. And this is not the first time this has happened. After this rainbow fascist group got kicked off the land, Chris de Bruyn, a journalist, Chris Scoveries, a friend of mine, he's covered many local protests before. He ended up getting mistaken for one of these rainbow protesters, and he got pushed to the ground by one of the people in the Christian group. Thankfully, many people in the group recognized that violence is wrong, firstly, and secondly, is one of us. This is a guy that does proper journalism, unlike Channel 7, 9 and 10. Now, there's a few things to fact check here. First off, the media were wrong about a number of things. They said Mark Latham didn't speak. He did. He gave his full speech. Secondly, this was not a Mark Latham crowd. This was a bunch of locals protecting their church in southwest Sydney. It was the rainbow fascists that came into an area that was not their own. They did not look like they belonged in southwest Sydney. And they started to cause trouble. They started to desecrate private land, a private church, and they antagonized people into action. Secondly, the media gives all of this airtime to one of the so-called victims in this crowd who had a mask on his face, like the coward that he is. He was probably someone that was throwing things at the church. Maybe he was the one that desecrated a crucifix. This little rainbow Nazi goes on to describe this crowd as far-right, violent thugs. First off, far-right? You mean white nationalist? Bro, go to Specsavers. He also made the accusation that women in his group were grabbed by the hair and had their heads smashed into the ground. Can I get some medical evidence of that? Is there a hospital record? Are there photos? Is there a video? Forgive me if I don't believe you. The media ran cover for this group by describing them as coming with the intention of being peaceful protesters. So how is it that I've got 4 witnesses telling me the same thing, that a crucifix was desecrated? How is it I've got 4 witnesses saying that they threw things at the church, private property, to damage it? The media have lost all credibility and they're just running cover for these bastards. Why is this happening? Well, in short, it's because you're not listening. You're not listening in the political establishment, you're not listening in the media, and people in Western and Southwestern Sydney, they've had enough. Let's give you a timeline. Where does this go back to? Well, let's start with 2017. A same-sex marriage vote was put forward, a plebiscite. The people of Southwest Sydney, they vote in overwhelming fashion against same-sex marriage. 12 out of the 17 areas around the entire country happen to be in Western and Southwestern Sydney. They voted no. Yet their own members of parliament in the federal parliament, like Chris Bowen, voted for same-sex marriage. How's that for democracy? So these people lost the vote and they were promised by Malcolm Turnbull, this will not impact religious freedom rights. Well, in short, it did. He lied, and it is. Next, Scott Morrison at the 2019 election. After rolling Malcolm Turnbull, he promised that he would deliver a religious freedom bill to protect rights of people like Israel Folau. In short, Scott Morrison reneged on his promise. He never passed legislation. His own MPs turned against him on a bill that was substandard anyway. He never delivered. Fast forward to 2021, the 12 LGAs of concern. Gladys Berejiklian locks down southwestern Sydney. These 12 LGAs of concern, by the way, the same areas that voted no against same-sex marriage. They were locked down for non-compliance and targeted. Is it any mystery that in December, in the local elections, we saw areas where 30% of people weren't voting in southwest Sydney? Is it then a mystery that in May 2022, we had areas like Bankstown in southwest Sydney, where there was a 20% invalid vote rate, meaning 20% of people that rocked up to the polling booths in Bankstown, they got there, they either screwed up their ballot, they either couldn't fill out their ballot, or they threw it out. You're not meant to have a 20% invalid vote rate. It's meant to be like 2 to 5%. Why is this happening? It's because people are getting fed up with the system. It's because you're not listening. 2023, both Dominic Perrottet and Chris Minns from Liberal and Labor, they endorse a bill from Alex Greenwich, which is an anti-religious freedom bill, which will most likely be proposed after this election. They both endorsed this bill without seeing a draft. Mark Latham tries to put the message forward that I have some solutions to this. And his event gets shut down. He gets intimidated. He gets berated. The event venue at this church gets vandalized. A crucifix gets smashed. And these rainbow Nazis get cover from the media. Where have I seen this before? Black Lives Matter, America. Protesters from outside of the local area, they come in, they antagonize the community, and the community begs the police, get these people out. Here's a fact check for you. Who called the police? It was the Christian protesters protecting their church. It was an illegal protest by these rainbow fascists. The Christians wanted them out of there. Do you think the Christian protesters actually called the police so that they could have witnesses to them assaulting rainbow protesters? But you know what? These rainbow psychos forgot one thing. You don't just come to southwestern Sydney and think you can just sprout your bullcrap and vandalize a church and a crucifix and you're just going to get away with it. I'm not apologizing for violence. I'm just explaining to you, how did we get here? It's because you're not listening. If we don't solve this problem with religious freedom, more people are going to stop showing up to voting, and I don't know how this is going to rear its head. If you get between people and their kids, if you put this indoctrination and hormone blockers and you stop people from preying on their children when they're worried about them going gay, if you stop this, you will have riots on your hands. Worse than this. People will get hurt. I completely condemn all violence, but everyone has their breaking point. And I understand why people are pissed off. This has been 6 years in the making. 6 years of their religion being vandalized. If we don't start getting our vote right in this country, if the pressure in this bottle doesn't actually relieve itself, we're going to see a situation where this is going to become more and more common. If you're not sure who's for your religious freedom and who is, I strongly recommend heading to my site, tpaust.com.au. We have how to vote cards that can show you who is for this rainbow crap and who isn't. We prioritize people that are making sure they stay away from your kids. Free resource. I just don't want a revolution. We can resolve these problems without violence at the ballot box, and that's not too much to ask. Share this video, get it out there. This has left me so angry, specifically because the media have abdicated their responsibility. They're completely propagandizing everything. And did they call anyone on the ground? I bet not. I bet not.
Seeing a lot of posts where saying that we should love our neighbour as ourselves and pray for those who persecute us. We do love them. We do pray for those who persecute us. We have. We did it at Channel 10. It was done in Newtown. It was done last Saturday in Hyde Park. We've prayed for them countless times, but they still decided to come to the church and protest against Mark Latham speaking out against the mutilation of children. And then the people that took it into their own hands are considered bad people because they've had enough. They've been pushed to the point where their voices are not being heard. So what else are they supposed to do? They're going to lose it because they've had enough. Wake up, people. This isn't about attacking people. This is about making a stand and actually drawing a line in the sand and saying, all right, we've had enough. We need change. And you have to take action. And unfortunately, last night was the action.